So I'm not afraid to throw some challenges at you in this course. This is what it's all about, is tackling those really difficult situations you'll find yourself in. So this is another one. So instead of perspective, the problem here is texture. How do we accurately replace texture of the grass over on top of the leaf? Because it's organic and it's going all these different places, it's going to be really hard to just copy and paste over it. So let's try a few things first. Let's loosely select our leaf with the lasso tool and see how the Content Aware tool does naturally. Select our layer, edit, Content Aware fill. Let's see what it does. It does a pretty good job. Let's go ahead and zoom in. You can still see where the leaf was kind of cut out. There's some kind of weird coloring happening here. It's pretty darn good, but it's not perfect. So let's click on OK. This gives us a better start than starting from scratch. So let's click on OK. Let's zoom in and see if we can't kind of correct a little bit of it. It's really not too bad. There's just some areas where you can tell it's not a smooth blade of grass. So one thing we can do is we can add a new layer and we can use the clone tool. So we can have perfect control over this. Let's get a nice feathered soft round brush. We want this to be very feathered. Let's just do a little sample. Okay, there we go. So let's see if we can't sample around. So we're just going to try to get rid of this blurry spot here and just make it a little bit more accurate. So let's grab a sample from a little bit further away. Okay. So let's get the sample right up here. I'm going to hold down Option. Let's go ahead and get a sample. And I could do this on a new layer just to keep everything in layers because I can have more control over it. And it's going to give me a preview of where it's going to be so you can always kind of match it up right about here. And we want to make sure it's at the top layer so we can see kind of the effects. We're going to paint kind of loosely around it. And then we can subtract. So we can add a layering mask. And we're going to paint on with black so that we can remove what's around it. And this is where you might need to zoom in and get really accurate if you're just really wanting to line up blades of grass. So you just go in there and you'd patch it up. Over time, you'd create a pretty accurate replacement. So for our last Content Aware Clone Tool experiment project, we're going to eliminate this woman right here from the steps. So this is complicated because you have unique steps. They're not repeat steps. They each have their own unique look to them. So how do we do this? Let's make it easy and start out with a Content Aware and just kind of see what it does for us. If it gives us a head start, great. But then we might have to manually replace each step using a perspective warp tool. Let's go to Edit, Content Aware Fill. Beautiful. Look at that. I am always impressed with how they're changing their algorithms. You could still see some imperfections, so let's zoom in. Some places where it's broken on the floor, but it is pretty darn accurate. So let's make sure we don't need to change our sample to get a better look, and let's click on OK. So that gave us a fantastic start. We don't have to do everything from scratch like we used to do before the Content Aware tool was invented, where you'd have to get the clone tool or duplicate each step and fill it in manually. We're going to do a little bit of that just to make sure we don't have this broken step look. So let's start with this step. I'm going to go ahead and merge these layers together, just Command E. I just want to have one working layer here. So this is where we have to do a little bit of manual work here. So we're just going to select this little area, zoom in, and just kind of flatten that out. We're going to take the clone tool to make it easy. We're going to do a smaller sample. Let's sample right above it. Hold down Option, Sample, and get rid of it. We're just kind of flattening out the steps on some of these. Some of them, it might look more natural to leave it that way. So every situation is going to be different. So let's take a sample nearby and slowly kind of get rid of this little object. Do a dark sample. Do a light sample, just kind of crafting a new look for this area. Let's see how that looks. So you can go in, do the little details. I'm not going to probably be taking me 30 minutes to really get all of those steps even or keep some of those jagged edges just to have a look to them. But just like that, she's gone. So the Content Aware tool is an amazing tool. I definitely want to spend a lot of time especially starting out with this because it's also incredibly fun to do and it almost feels like magic. So I wanted to start off this intermediate level course with just a little bit of something that's fun to do, something that you can do easily in 5 to 10 minutes. You can do a couple of these projects on your own. So you can download some of these photos. I have photo links in the resource guide. You can download these exact photos or find other photos, really, really challenging ones, not just really easy ones, but find the ones that have perspective, maybe one that has steps, and see if you can't accurately remove a particular object and make it look as realistic as possible. So that's your task before we move on to doing a quick composition.